Welcome to the latest episode of the Federal's Worldly Wise, where we attempt to deconstruct latest international events for the benefit of viewers. Tectonic shifts are happening in the Middle East, linked to Iran. After decades of courage, independence, and defiance, it appears that the Islamic Republic is finally being forced into submission by forces led by the United States and Israel. President Donald Trump's latest maneuvers to somehow prevent Iran from going ahead with its nuclear program is aimed at neutralizing Tehran's capabilities as part of the larger goal that none in the region should be able to challenge Israel. Iran, over the last 25 years, had built an axis with Tehran at its core and supported by the Bashar al-Assad government in Syria and the Hezbollah in Lebanon. When the US invaded Iraq in 2003 and supported the Shia forces in that country, it willy-nilly empowered Iran. This happened because the Shia in Iraq view the Ayatollah in Iran as their mentor and spiritual head. Naturally, this was convenient for Iran, and before long, it started playing a key role in Iraq's internal situation, something that was completely unpalatable for the US. For the US and Iran had broken off relations way back in 1979 after the uprising and the resulting anti US actions of students and supporters of the newly established Islamic Republic. In 2003, when the US realized that it had given a wide space for Iran to expand its influence, the then George W. Bush administration realized it had to somehow tackle this new problem. That is when Washington raised the bogey of Iran's nuclear program. It insisted that Tehran was developing its nuclear weapons capabilities by enriching uranium and brought this to the notice of the International Atomic Energy Agency. None was willing to listen to Tehran's plea that theirs was a nuclear program for peaceful purposes, mainly for generating electricity. For the US, Iran's nuclear program was the lever that it used to keep the Islamic government in check, lest it swamped Iraq and wrested it away from US control. Since then, despite Iran allowing international inspectors to scrutinize its nuclear program, its views have largely been ignored. The US, with its clout as a superpower, went several steps ahead and even initiated economic sanctions against Iran. Several covert attempts have been made in the last so many years to damage Iran's program, largely traced to Israel and the US through cyber warfare, direct strikes on some of Iran's nuclear facilities, and even the killing of top scientists involved in the nuclear program. Iran defiantly built its own anti-US, anti-Israel axis in the region, comprising Syria's Bashar al-Assad government, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Hamas in the occupied Palestinian territories, and the Houthis in Yemen. For the US-led West, Iran's so-called axis of resistance was a red rag. The Hamas's attack on October 7, 2023, that is 2 years ago, provided the opportunity for Israel and the US to use their firepower directly against Iran. Hezbollah had been firing rockets into Israel in solidarity with Hamas, while the Houthis in Yemen attacked freight ships aligned to Israel and the US, which were traversing in international waters of the Red Sea. The al-Assad government too provided logistical support to the Palestinians. Using the general sympathy and generated after the Hamas attack, Israel went all out against Iran's twin prongs, the Hezbollah and the Syria's al-Assad government. In a stunning display of the latest weapons technologies, Israel decimated the Hezbollah leadership, including the iconic leader Hassan Nasrallah and other key Hezbollah commanders in Lebanon. Israel, in an audacious attack, he assassinated a key Hamas leader and former Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh right in the heart of Tehran. Soon after, in an unexpected turn of events, a US Dane terrorist group, the Hayat Tahrir al Sham, swept through Syria, deposed the al Assad government, and captured power in Damascus last December. Iran lost another key protege in the region, its biggest. More recently, the US concluded an intense bombing campaign in Yemen, ruled by the Houthis. Suffering severe destruction and deaths, the Houthis agreed not to attack the US and Israel linked freight ships. In return, the Trump government stopped its bombing campaign. This meant that the Houthis, Iran's third node in the region, too stood neutralized. That left only Iran to be dealt with. Though Israel's Netanyahu government has demanded that it be allowed to strike directly at Tehran, Trump has deferred, preferring to defang Iran through a nuclear agreement. Though Iran is not giving in easily, the very fact that it has acceded to Trump's move for talks is significant. For it was Trump who, without warning, walked out of the earlier 2015 nuclear deal that the Barack Obama government led consortium had signed with Tehran. Iran is now severely weakened with its arms cut off in the region. Its biggest supporter, Russia, is fighting its own battle in Ukraine, while another Tehran backer, China, too is bogged down in an existential rivalry with the US for global supremacy. Right now, Tehran's negotiators are pointing to the nitty-gritty of an agreement, refusing to call off the nuclear program in toto, which is the US's demand, in return for the lifting of sanctions and related economic help. Iran says it will open its nuclear facilities even for US inspectors, not just the UN, but will not halt its program for peaceful purposes. As for the US, Trump is toying with Iran for a nuclear agreement which will bolster his aim to be remembered as a peacemaker. Even though he has openly deferred with Netanyahu's demand for direct action against Iran, Trump has been careful not to compromise Israel's interests. The US, irrespective of who is in power in Washington, has always worked to ensure that the balance of forces in the region favor Israel. Trump is no different. Early days since Shia dominated Iran has lost its clout, but the implications are far reaching. Sunni Saudi Arabia is likely to emerge as the foremost power among the nations in the Middle East, along with Turkey. Number two, the real beneficiary is Israel, which for all practical purposes has no serious challenger to its power. Number three, once Iran's nuclear program is stopped or even restricted, Israel will end up as the sole nuclear power in the region, though officially it has never acknowledged its nuclear capability and related infrastructure. And lastly, the fourth, whether Iran will experience internal instability and if its loss of power will end up threatening the incumbent 46-year-old Islamic regime.